Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today we are talking to Drew, the owner of Dicey Encounters and also a professional voice actor. We just went over that before the stream and how professional he is.
The most professional.
Is there anything else?
I make hot sauce, which is an odd job. I've got a co-business partner, co-owner, I guess you would say. So we make
cool.
we make hot sauce. We haven't started like selling them out yet, but we're working on the batches. And I do some woodworking stuff. So a jack of all trades.
You do it all, man. I like to try a lot of things, but I suck at like everything. Like I try to do terrain. Like I'm like, oh, that DM Scotty guy, he does some cool terrain. I'm gonna try to do that, and then I'd make it, and I'm like, that looks pretty good. And then my wife's like, what is this crap?
I actually, funny enough, I've chatted with DM Scotty for a little bit. Jeremy with Black Magic Craft. In fact, I ended up somehow making friends with one of the illustrators over at Wizards of the Coast because I sculpted. Let's see if I can grab him.
Yeah, do it, man. Do it.
Sculpted a Morkoth.
Oh, that is cool.
And so had a lot of fun with that and threw that up on the D&D 5e group on Facebook. And the actual creator of the Morkoth came on and he was like, oh, that's really cool. Can I throw that on my website? And I was like, yeah.
That is amazing, dude. Yeah, you really are good at everything.
I like the saying, jack of all trades, master of none, still better than a master of one. So,
well, and the better you get at things, the more you realize you're not good at something. You notice that? It's like, oh, I need to learn this and that. And I love it. Yeah, no, it's funny. So I have tried mini painting recently. I'm not good at that. Luckily, when we do our streams, my wife's usually the one painting and I just talk, to our audience. I've tried so many things. I thought for a while it would be cool to make dice, but then I see like all the people that are good at it who make mistakes. And I'm like, I don't have money to mess up everything all the time.
So yeah, it gets expensive. Like I like to let people know, like if you're gonna get started into it, like in the first 6 months of me making dice, I realistically put like $6,000 into it. Like if you're gonna do it, go big, go home,
Right.
Because as I was telling you before the stream started, like when I do things, I jump headfirst into it, like voice acting and dice making and all this and that. I'm like, I can do that, and then I go and do it.
So what made you start looking into doing dice?
So fun story. It starts way back. So viewers, bear with me. I used to work at this hardware store called Ace Hardware. And at the time I was actually playing Pathfinder. Had a really good group. We're having a lot of fun. And one day I had to go do a delivery with this to go deliver a plant. So the guy that runs the greenhouse, he rode with me and I was chatting about Pathfinder. I was like, this is pretty cool and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, you should come over and try D&D. At that time, I didn't know what D&D was. And this was like only 2 years ago. So,
and now you got a beholder on your wall on the back.
Yeah, right. But with that being said, I joined his group. We had a lot of fun. We ran Tomb of Annihilation and then some homebrew games. And then from there, I went on to actually go be a DM and had a lot of fun with that. And now it's led to all of this, which is just mind-blowing where life takes you.
Right.
Because right now, I've got a game I play. So our normal game had to stop because of the virus going on. So with that being said, we kind of put that on hold till we can all play in person again because, online without, webcams or anything can get kind of boring. So right now I've got a game that goes on Saturdays with some other awesome dice makers, including Moonbeam Menagerie, Paradise Made, and then Dalavan Dice. We have a lot of fun on there. And then now I'm streaming every Tuesday on Level Up Dice Twitch. We play a game with DM Ribinator, so the Ribinator YouTube channel. He's the DM over there.
I'm subbed there.
It's a lot of fun. He teaches you awesome stuff. We've also got Bree with Fortune Favors and Alex with Level Up Dice, who's the CEO there. Talk about an awesome group. And of course, we got Jackie with Moonbeam Menagerie. So
nice.
One half of Moonbeam Menagerie, because we got two.
Quite a list right there. Quite a list.
It's a lot, but let me tell you, I I wouldn't be getting through this quarantine without them.
I understand that. We've had, since before the quarantine, I was running like 4 or 5 games, I think. Most of them streamed. We were playing in Tomb of Annihilation. My wife was running. That was an in-person game with her family. That's been put on hold. Had our Descent into Avernus game was in person. That's now online. We play with Luke from the DM Lair, Nate from WSD20. I'm gonna have to
check that out.
Oh, it's great. We're like 9 or 10 episodes in. Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. He's a terrain crafter guy. He's also a streamer. His Twitch channel is pretty awesome, by the way. Mini Terrain Domain. He's actually playing in the Nerdarchy game right now. Please do not change channels, though.
Perfect.
But yeah, and you know, like there's so much. But yeah, the quarantine kind of messed a lot of stuff up. But then I started doing these interviews, and these interviews have been so much fun. And like I've met some really cool people. Started talking to some developers at Green Ronin. I started talking to some people over at Paizo. So a lot of cool stuff going on. Obviously, you know, some small indie creators, people who like you who started their own business. So the Dicey encounters dice, right? So, I mean, I've seen some of them. They look really clean on Instagram, obviously. That's kind of how this started. I was like, wow, those are some nice dice. So, what materials do you use? Like, do you use anything out of the ordinary? Have you found something that works for you that maybe other people don't use? What's the like? I know nothing about this. I'm fascinated.
So I'm a pretty open book when it comes to what I use and that. I do a lot of, I guess you could say like Insta Live videos of like me making dice. In fact, if you were to go on the Instagram, I've got them in like the highlights where you can watch me pour stuff and do that.
You show off the dice that way too, which is way better than still photos, by the way. Like when you actually hold the die up and you're showing it. Like it just
because then you can actually you can get like the individual details because like there's some dice in there where I'm trying to find a good example. Like of course it's not going to show up very well on this anyway, but like if you move it around, it's just got all sorts of awesome details.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. I use epoxy resin to make the dice. It's a 2-part epoxy. You can find it pretty much anywhere. With that being said, you know, getting all the insert pieces, you can use foils and holographics and like all the glitter. Like, dear Lord, I tell you, 2 years ago, I never thought I would have so much glitter in my life.
That could be a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, it's great going to work the next day and I've just like got glitter all over my arm and people think I was at the strip club or whatever. And I'm just like, nope, I'm just making dice.
But, I was gonna say, but you're not hungover and you don't have like you know the stale strip club smell on you. So, you know.
Exactly.
Not that I know. I mean,
but with that being said, we got some pressure pots. I have 2 of them. They were special made for resin curing. A lot of people will do like Harbor Freight style pressure pots where they have to like modify it and that. But I was like, I ain't got time for that. So I went ahead over to California Air Tools. I'm like, hey, this is what I need. And so they got me hooked up on there. I paid full price. I just want to throw it out there. If you want to sponsor me, California Air Tools.
Right.
But anyways, with that being said, you'd cut down the sprues, polish it up. We've got a really good way. Ryan over at Dalavan Dice figured out that with a pottery wheel and some sandpaper, you can like get the dice looking real nice without all the effort of getting carpal tunnel. So that's a cool way to do it. But yeah, it's just as Emily said in chat, we make Horcruxes.
Oh, Horcruxes! I saw the tears comment. The secret ingredient is tears. That got me excited.
Blood, sweat, and tears, all of it.
Right.
And souls.
That's funny. Yes. So there's multiple different ways to make dice from what I've heard. Like obviously you use a pressure pot. Like do you make your own molds then?
I do. So you can go to certain people to get master dice. So your master dice are going to be, I just happen to have some sitting around. So they're going to be these clear, nothing special looking dice. And they've got your like original font and things like that. And so what you do with that is you set it in the silicones and then you do, so there's so many different types of molds. You can do sprue molds, squish molds, cap molds, 2-part molds. You can do them all.
I just saw a video on cap molds recently. on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. They messed up the first one.
that sounds like Ryan. That was funny enough.
I think it was actually.
Yeah, me, Serenity and Jackie over at Moonbeam, Emily over at Paradise Maid, and Della Van Dice all came together to create that cat mold system.
With like the clay,
at least the slab mold
or something.
Yeah. So we I'm not going to say we invented it, but we improved upon it into a slab mold.
Right.
And so that was actually Ryan over at Ribinator.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it was, because he's got a few videos on dice making that I've watched.
Yeah.
So. Like I said, I'm totally fascinated. It's kind of like even the train stuff, like we were talking, like Black Magic Craft, for example. Like, so I've been following his channel for a long time, and it was funny when he first started. There was talk between like Jake, Earl T. Gray, and I think just myself. We were talking about going up there and hanging out with him. And I was joking with him that he had to make me his table because he had just did the video where he had done his new table.
Yeah.
He's like, you come up here, I'll do it. I mean, this was a couple years ago now, but I was like, yeah, one day. So I should get him on the show now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy's a cool dude.
Oh yeah. I love watching creative people create stuff because you guys all make it look so easy. And so then I think I can do it. And then I realize about 5 minutes into the project, what the hell am I thinking? I shouldn't have bought all this shit.
You know, the real thing behind it is, and a lot of people, I used to get upset when people would say, oh, you're talented and all this and that, because at the end of the day, all it is I can't even tell you, months and years of just practicing and making sure everything looks great. And as Serenity said in the chat, nothing special, and then spends 12 hours sanding and polishing these little masters. So, but yeah, it's a lot of practice and time and patience, and
I don't have that,
and mess ups.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the amount of times I've messed up making dice. I just had a giveaway recently over on Twitch, and it took me 6 tries to get the dice looking just how I wanted. And just so you know, it takes 12 hours for that resin to cure. So that's,
it's a long
however
time.
amounts of days, realistically 6 days of just waiting. So
wow.
It's a lot of fun. I recommend it to anyone. Just make sure you wear like PPE. So get yourself a mask, some goggles, gloves. Take care of yourself, because it's hazardous. It's hazardous working equipment.
For sure. I think that's the thing that's so impressive to me is the patience involved. So I am not the most patient person. And my wife will attest to that. Like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to, like, even my game room, like looking around now, I see all the imperfections. Everyone who comes over can see the imperfections. Like, I should have spent more time sanding. I should have put more layers of mud on for the drywall. Like, and I knew it. I've done professional drywall before. And it's different when you're working it, as opposed to like, I want to get this done so I can start getting my furniture in here tomorrow. Like, so when it comes to stuff for myself, I'm not the most patient. And that's
totally fair. I get very impatient waiting for dice to cure in the pressure pots. It comes up to like the 10-hour mark, and I'm just like, just 2 more hours. I just want to take them out now, look at them, see, because that's the best part about it. Unless you're using one of the silicones that's like clear, you don't know what you're going to end up with when you originally pour it. So
right. So it might even it may have been a failed attempt, like 5 hours in, and you won't know for another 7 hours.
Yep.
And then you feel
that's the fun of dice making.
It's a full wasted day and materials gone.
Happens all the time.
Right. So what is your goal then with Dicey Encounters? Are you just hoping to one day, mass produce dice, or do you want to stick to the more handcrafted, smaller, more personalized thing?
So my main goal for Dicey Encounters, I would love to have a physical storefront, kind of start my own local game shop. Cool. And then, I could have my other friends and have their dice in there. And I always forget what the word is. It's, I'll remember it later. But long story short, have their dice in there, sell those, and have lots of cool things. But realistically, with Dicey Encounters, I would love to hire some of my friends that hate their job. So I'd get them into a better job, making some dice, having fun, because I know it's something they like to do, something they're actually interested in. And realistically, what I really love to do is just be the guy that designs the dice, and then like have other people
Do the work.
Sounds terrible. But that's the perks of being the boss, I guess.
You're the artist. That's what you are a creative who likes to do artsy things, and
I hate sanding, I hate polishing.
Yep.
The hard parts are the things I hate. But don't we all?
The work.
Absolutely.
Like, I would love to start a restaurant that had the menu I want, and then I would
have to do nothing. You're just like, yeah, run with it, people.
Yeah, I check in the morning, make sure everything's going well, check in at night, make sure the numbers are good, that kind of thing.
Yep, pretty much.
Everyone's happy at my restaurant, I'd be good.
Yeah. It's but with that being said, I don't ever plan on going like mass manufactured.
Sure.
I would love for it to still be handmade artisan dice, because that's what it started as, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Not to knock on other people that do it mass manufactured. Level Up Dice does a fantastic job with what they do, and they have some gorgeous dice. Like they do a lot of gemstone dice and things like that. I give Alex props all day, every day. I couldn't do what he does.
Nice. So what would you name? Do you have a name picked out already? If you do, and you don't have it trademarked, you don't have to say it, but
I actually don't. I don't have a
Dicey
name.
Encounters. No.
Yeah. We'll just go with that. I mean, I'm so fun fact. I'm buying my dad a boat here in the near future, but I told him I get to name the boat, but it's going to be dice themed. So haven't figured out the name yet. We've thrown around some good names like Tides of Fate and things like that, but
cool.
I don't know. Like eventually we'll come up with something.
That actually is kind of cool. I like that. That'd be a great show name for a podcast or something. Tides of Fate.
Tides of Fate.
There
you can thank Moonbeam for that one. That was actually Serenity who came up with that name.
I do like that. All right. So Emily is asking you, tell us about your favorite and least favorite sets you've ever made.
Well, I've got quite a few least favorite sets. Most of those are the time-consuming ones where it takes like 4 days for just one set.
Oh, wow.
But with that being said, I don't have any examples here. But my favorite, maybe not set, but dice. You're not going to be able to see this, but if you go on the Instagram, you can find it. Super easy to find. I actually made this for my most recent character, Team. It's a blue swirled with like banding in it. It's awesome. That's my favorite. I have fun story about it. I actually had my roommates a little bit embarrassed. They thought I was getting busy with myself. Meanwhile, I was just pulling dice out of the mold, and I was very, let's say, enthusiastic about pulling them out of the mold. So,
at least you got passion, right?
I got that passion. I'll tell you that much.
That's amazing. So Chance's Guide to Pathfinder 2E says, how much do you think it would cost to get started in dice making?
Realistically, if you want to get started and not with like a pressure pod or just starting basically with like maybe a vacuum chamber and the things, realistically, you could get started with probably around $500. That's like making basic dice. You're going to have bubbles in your dice. It's going to happen. When you start investing more and get into like that $3,000 mark is when you're getting like pressure pots and, air compressors and things like that. So you can actually start getting bubbles out of your dice. But at that same token, you can start increasing the price of your dice because you're not only, paying more to make these dice. So your equipment cost is going up. Your material cost is going up because you're buying cooler new things. And then, of course, time and effort. So that'll also bump it up.
And the quality goes up. The dice look better.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I used to charge about $45 for a set of dice. That was when I first started. It was to the point where there were no bubbles or anything like that in the dice. They were looking pretty good. And then eventually, nowadays it's $75 for a set of dice, but they are pristine. They're perfect. Like, unbiasedly, I would pay that kind of money for that set of dice. In fact, I have.
I was going to say,
other makers.
You've invested like $6,000 into making dice. I think you have.
That's fair. I love supporting my other makers. A lot of the times I end up doing trades with them. I would love to purchase more. So hopefully, I can get some good money with the day job. But long story short, a completely different tangent. The whole thing I want to do with Dicey Encounters is make that my main job, so I don't have to work at my other day job. I would love for this to be it, and and then still do some voice acting on the side and doing things like that. But that's the main goal.
So speaking of voice acting, we briefly touched on this beforehand, but what got you started in voice acting?
So, like I mentioned before, I don't exactly remember what it was that got me into it. I'm sure it was probably watching a show somewhere and then being like, oh, I wonder who did the voice of this. Most likely it was Adventure Time. Adventure Time's one of my favorite shows ever. But with that being said, I did the same thing I did with Dice, and I went head first into it, and ended up getting like a USB mic.
What was the USB mic? Do you remember?
It was a terrible USB mic. I think a
$40 one.
Yeah, like it wasn't that great. It wasn't like a Blue Yeti or anything like that.
That's what I'm on 5 years on this Blue Yeti, and
Blue Yetis are great, especially as a USB dice. They work. They get the job done, especially for things like streaming and things like that. And then I slowly realized that when you're doing more professional things like doing phone ads and things like that, you want. Yeah. So that's when I ended up with my next microphone. Ended up spending about $200. It was an AT2020 or 2035. Got that up and running, and now I use my $600 shotgun mic over there. But that one usually stays in the recording booth.
Right. Yeah.
I brought it out just for you.
I appreciate that. Now I just need to get a $600 mic. I need to get more patrons for that, though.
If anything, I would just grab yourself one of these AT2035s. They get the job done. A lot of streamers, YouTubers, things like that. This is a good go-to. It's a nice cardioid mic, so pulls in from the front, and you're good to go.
Nice. Yeah. We when we were doing in person. I mean, now obviously we do stuff with just me and my wife in the room sometimes, and so I want to get at least another mic, so we're talking into our own mics. Because it's like, oh, I talk louder than her already. So there's some of those difficulties we have. But
absolutely. Yeah, get yourself get an audio interface with 2 XLR inputs, and you're good to go.
See, you're going to be the guy I call. I'm like, hey, what do I need to do now?
Ask me anything. I got you.
Nice. So, obviously, when you were getting into it, you probably went down the rabbit hole of Google first, I'm assuming. Stumbled across some of the most obscure web pages on the internet about voice acting.
Yep, did that, and then I ended up on. Let's see if I still have it. I do. I have it still up here. It's still a great place to go if you ever anyone wants to check it out. It's called Behind the Voice Actor. So it's actually a cool place to go to figure out who does things and stuff like that. I've actually still got my one on here. Made that back in October 10th, 2018. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, I've got 45 auditions in there. I had a lot of fun with that. The one I use now though is Casting Call Club. It's a paid one, so you're gonna get better gigs with it, but you're also paying for it. So
right.
With that being said, they've got some on there where it's like, the way I should phrase it is, if you're really going to get into voice acting, get into a union, get into a thing like that, because people will take advantage of you. I can attest to that. It happened to me quite a few times where they're like, yeah, we'll pay like $10 a minute. And that sounds like a great deal, but at the end of the day, it's really not that great. So get into a union. They'll help you out. They'll help you figure out where you need to go, and then you can get into an agency and things like that. But that's if you really, really want to get into it. Otherwise, if you just want to have fun with it, I would check out Behind the Voice Actor. It's a cool, fun place to go. There's a lot of unpaid gigs where you can just go in and someone's having fun making something random, and you just go in there and have a blast.
Interesting. So what about people who might not feel like they're up to par? Like, what are some ways they can improve on voice acting, you think?
So voice acting comes from two things. Like one's, the equipment. That's one of the major things. Mm-hmm. That way you don't get popping. I'd recommend either, if you can't do a like recording booth like what I have in the other room over there, the easiest thing is to go into your closet, throw a big comforter over you, and talk into the microphone, because that's going to make the world of difference in the audio quality, because it's just you and the microphone.
Yeah.
The other thing is it's acting. So, when they say voice acting, it's not just talking into a microphone. Like, you actually have to have those emotions behind it and things like that. So,
right. Facial expressions will matter. Like, you can tell if someone's smiling. Or...
When you're actually moving your hands around and standing. Standing's really important with voice acting, I found as well. You can't really get into that emotion from sitting. So it's a lot of fun. Actually, one of the best things you can do is play D&D and, RP with your group. That's a great way to learn how to act. I was lucky when I was in high school. I did a lot of drama club, things like that. I was in plays, so I already had some semblance of an idea of what I was doing. And then, don't get me wrong, I am still learning on everything I do, including dice making, including voice acting. So I'm by no means perfect.
Hey, you did the right word this time. Pre-stream is like, I'm no professional. I'm like, well, if you've been paid.
That's fair. I am by no means perfect. But I think that's something really important, even going into dice making and things like that, or any aspect of life. You just gotta keep at it, and don't get down about it, because when you get down about it, you quit, and well, then it's done.
Well, don't feel bad. Even the best people in sports and whatever in the world still practice. So the minute you quit practicing, the minute you start falling off. So Moonbeam says several hundred, to be honest, to obviously get started. That makes sense. Yep. Paul says, I need to get a little pancake compressor. My 33-gallon compressor is a little too big. So Paul Ross, he's made things for me before. He's 3D printed things. He's made some wood stuff for me. He lives about 2 hours away. He is the craftsman of my Discord. He's always talking about working on new stuff, and he's awesome. He's an EMT as well, so he's one of those people right now that's working hard for everybody. But
hey, I appreciate what you do. I was an EMS for 6 years, so nice. I appreciate what you do. Oh, it happened to injure my back, and that's how I got out of it. So that's a thing. 400-pound patients are a thing when you're working with someone that's 120 pounds. So.
Right. I get that. So anyways, so you were talking about a really cool project beforehand too. An old game that inspired you as a child that now you saw something come up. How did that come about?
So I was on one of the forums for voice acting over on Reddit. Checking them out. There's tons of different Reddit feeds on there. You can always figure it out. But I came across one that mentioned time splitters, and I was like, wonder what they're talking about. And I came to find out that they're actually making a new time splitters game. It's still in way early development, but I found where they were getting all the developers and things like that, and I got a hold of the developers, and I was like, hey, listen. These 3 games were my childhood. This is what I grew up playing. I have to be a part of this game. I don't even care how insignificant it would be, just to be able to be a part of it. And lo and behold, after doing some auditions, I actually got cast for 6 roles. And so I'm super excited about it.
You're going to be all over that game.
Yeah. So what's great about time splitters are the characters don't really have long dialogues or anything. It's a lot of guttural kind of noises from getting shot and stabbed and things, and your random one-off lines. But another one is also in early development. It's I believe Tesseract Prime Offworlds. I was telling you earlier, I did a character that had 16,000 lines of script. And it was quite a bit. The developer of the game would every week on the dot send me another email with all the lines, and I think it was like 1,000 lines per email. So
wow,
it was a lot. But ended up getting that done, and that's been a lot of fun. So I know that's not coming out anytime soon. I think it's like still like really early development. Probably looking like 2-3 years before it's actually like a computer game or something like that. But from what I've seen, it looks pretty good.
On something like that, do you typically get paid up front, or how does that work?
So this is why you should join a union.
Varies. Probably varies, but
yeah. So you don't generally get it really depends on what game you're doing. So on certain ones I have been paid up front. Other ones you get paid as you go, and that's really how you kind of want to do it, is get paid as you go. That way when you get to the end of it, if you've sent them all the script and they're like, nah, we're not going to pay you, you're SOL. Whereas if you're getting paid throughout it, you can be like, well, yeah, I got paid up until this point. And then there's a lot of things with like contracts and things like that where you do get paid up front. So
right,
that's always a thing too.
Nice. Blindman says, what are some of your roles? Obviously you're talking about 2 of them. Are there some other things that are out there that people can check out right now?
Yeah, there's some random YouTube videos. I did the narration for, those really cheesy like top 10 videos on YouTube. There were 2 channels for a hot minute. I was doing the narration for theirs. Which great. It required no voice acting whatsoever. It was literally just me talking, saying top 10 times such and such did such and such.
Right, with some enthusiasm, and that's about it.
Yeah, and it's like you get paid. Those were the ones that you got paid like $5 a minute, and so hey, it gave me some extra spending money. So hey,
right,
it let me buy this microphone over here.
That's all you need, right?
Yeah, and then there were some other fun ones, small ones, but I've actually found a lot of the really fun ones are the ones I never got paid for. They're just really small, random YouTube videos, maybe last like 5 minutes tops, and it's just some decent quality animation, and you're like, yeah, I did a thing.
It ends up in your portfolio or something, right?
Yeah.
Do you have an online portfolio or something?
I do. It's through Casting Call Club. Let's see. I know if I was to go to, let's see, my profile. There we are. I'm trying to see. There's one on here. So the Western Showdown by Higsel was a fun little like 5-minute one. That it was a Westerner kind of feel to it, but it was obnoxious at the end. So things like that. And then it even tells you on here what kind of microphones I got and things. I do have to update this latest shotgun mic because it's not on there. But yeah, they'll actually let you listen to some of my roles and things like that. So yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I would love to get into that. I am not someone like when I role play, I don't do voices really. What I try to do is if I have like a weird quirk or something, I try to kind of act it out. Like if they have it in his face or something, I'll try to do something like that. But yeah, like voices are not my strong suit. So voice acting is probably not in my future. But again,
funny enough, you say that. I know plenty of voice actors who don't do voices. It's just their voice straight up. Yeah, because going back to it, voice acting at its essence is acting. So you don't necessarily have to have a funny voice or do accents or things like that. Yeah, it helps you get like more varied jobs, but in the core of it, like if you can act well and you can just do that naturally, that's where it's at.
All right, now I'm inspired to look into this a little. maybe one day we'll work on the same project together.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, tons of people. Like, I know a lot of even the people with like Critical Role and things like that. God, the amount of things they have done. But a lot of them, it's just them. It's just them talking and acting. And a lot of the times, except for Matt does a lot of strange, weird voices. Him and just most of them, but still.
Right.
But they that's where it's at.
We got another YouTuber in here right now, No Nat Ones. He does Pathfinder 2nd Edition videos. And he has, first of all, just his normal voice is the perfect radio voice. He's got a great face for television, though. But he's got a perfect radio voice. I was telling him that
nice deep voice that's not like too booming, but it's just right.
It's also has that, it's that, but it's also got that pizzazz to it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if you go to his channel and ever watch one of his videos, you'll go, oh, I see what he was talking about. Like, perfect presentation.
I will go check that out right after this.
Yeah, sure. That's great. See you. He's going to be playing in a Pathfinder game with me here soon that I'm also playing in, so I'm pretty excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, so shout out to you, No Nat. But so speaking of which, of RPGs, so you've only been playing for a couple years, and you knew of Pathfinder 1st edition, right?
Yep.
But you had no idea what D&D was.
I had a semblance of an idea of what D&D was, and I figured it was somewhat similar. But once I started playing it, I absolutely fell in love. And then I actually got mad at myself that when I was younger, I never played. That I was one of those people. But no, I fell head over heels for D&D. Pathfinder was a lot of fun, but I think it was because of the group I was with.
Yes.
Which made it even better because it's a little more mathy, you know, why they call it Mathfinder and all this and that. But at the end of the day, it was still a lot of fun.
Right.
It was a cool story. And I think that's ultimately at the end of the day, what it's all about is building that story with not only the DM, but also the players. Like everybody comes together to make that game.
I used to play a little bit of Pathfinder 1st edition. I still have like half a shelf of books. I've sold the other ones that I had, but loved when I first started getting into it. I loved like the stuff that was in there. I loved the art, the feel of original Pathfinder. I thought on the surface was cool. And then when I started playing it, I'm like, oh, I hate having to look up all these different situational rules. And it was difficult. And then I started playing the D&D Next playtest. And then D&D 5e came out in 2014. So we jumped to that. Played that without really looking back for 6 years. And I feel like I played almost every concept like I've wanted as a player. And so I started looking into 2nd edition Pathfinder recently, and I'm really into it. It's a lot simpler than the first one.
Yeah.
But it still has that customization. So for me, I'm all in on this right now. I'm about to play my first game, like I said, where No Nat's playing. I'm probably going to run a one shot here soon. Like I'm really excited to see how that goes. But have you played any other games other than D&D and Pathfinder?
Played Call of Cthulhu once.
What'd you think of that one?
I liked it. It was pretty good. The friend group I have, a lot of them steer more towards the D&D aspect, which is, absolutely all right. I have one friend in particular. I go over to his place. He's got like 500 different games, and he's always like, yeah, let's play sometime. And I never end up having the time to go over. So I've got to make a change on that and come see him. But with that being said, that's really about it. Those are the three main ones. I've heard a good bit about the other versions of D&D. I've heard mixed reviews. I even that we don't talk about 4th edition and things like that.
I've never played it. I want to try it once.
Yeah, I mean,
just once at least.
My mom told me when I was a kid, and this really got her in trouble, is that you have to try something first, and then if you don't like it, you never have to do it again.
Yep.
Which got her in trouble because I was that 10-year-old that was eating clams when I should have been eating off the kids' menu. So, but with that being said, I would love to give it a try because you never know until you actually do it.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever interested, we have over 100 people on my Discord. It's not a huge Discord, but it's a very active one. We have a lot of people who are always looking for games. I think today someone was looking for a new D&D game that looks like a new Pathfinder game actually. Seems like it's filled up pretty quick, but we've had Zweihander and Warhammer, which is fantasy as well, but percentage based mechanics. Let's see what else. We played some other stuff too. I just can't think of it all offhand, but yeah, there's always some stuff going on there. So if you're ever interested,
absolutely.
And in the future, so this is my Friday nights. I either do these now. These used to be daytime. I used to do Tuesday and Thursday around 1 p.m. with these. But it's a hard time because 3 small kids walking in, trying to line up other people's schedules around their work. And so I've decided to move it to nights. So on Friday nights, we will either be doing a one shot every week, whatever game, or we'll do like interviews like this. But so if you have Fridays available typically, then maybe one time you can get into a one shot and try something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I'm
about it.
Are there any games in particular that you've heard of that you're kind of itching to try?
If I had the money for it, I would like to play Warhammer. I would like to give that a try. I've heard it's a rather expensive game in its core.
So, I was gonna say, are you thinking like the wargaming aspect of Warhammer, or the?
Yeah, I've never actually played any of them, so I don't actually know too much about them either. My brothers played them before, but I've never actually ventured into it. So it'd be something to check out at least.
So Blind Man asked, is Warhammer 40K a tabletop RPG? So no. However, Warhammer has it's kind of like D&D. You have the board games, you've got the RPG, you got video games, right? Like they're all over the place. Warhammer's kind of similar. They have the miniature wargaming aspect, which is really cool. We have TP Grant on my Discord does that. He shares like his mini painting all the time for those on the Discord. But he also has run the RPG for us. It's like, I think it's just Warhammer Fantasy, like 5th edition or something. I don't know. They got multiple editions. And then Zweihander is actually a simplified version of the Warhammer RPG. It's like a more streamlined version, but it's called something else. It's also the setting like is very similar, I guess. I'm not up on it. I don't own all the books. I've just played, with Tom and stuff like that and had a blast with it, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a more low magic setting. Like, so Zweihander, if you cast magic, it can be lethal. Like it can kill you. We were talking about this on stream the other night. And like you could cast a high level spell that would literally make you like go through a portal, roll a new character kind of thing. So yeah, right. Like all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm just going to do this thing, but I'm gonna do it at a high level and you're dead. Like, well, damn,
I mean, hey,
it's really popular. So Zweihander right now for the online Gen Con convention is the 10th most registered game. So to give you an idea, the top 4 are D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder, and Call of Cthulhu.
Starfinder. I have played Starfinder.
What do you think of that? I haven't played that one yet.
So I probably would have liked it better if my introduction to it was better. Mm-hmm. So it actually started off as the DM was playing, he was running a 5e game, right? And we had our characters. We had some really cool characters. I was playing in a peacock variation of an Aarakocra. Yep. I was a wizard that didn't use offensive spells, just strictly buff and defense. And long story short, we found this guild, which was a little bit odd. Something was weird about it, and then we ended up on a spaceship, and then we were brought into space, and then he went into Starfinder, which was an interesting switch because of the rules and things like that, and we made some cool characters. I had Gerb. He was this little tiny little gray alien that, he had a long backstory, but it was fun while it lasted, I should say. But it was a little bit weird. I think if we were brought into it a little bit differently, knowing that that's what we were going to be doing, I think it probably would have been more fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like you made a character with not really any context of what the game was going to be.
Yeah.
And when I run one shots, I struggle with explaining to people what the elevator pitch is. Like that's always been something I'm not good at. Or even with campaigns, if it's a homebrew thing, I'm like, you'd probably be doing this. And then we get into it and it's totally changed.
It's totally not, yeah. Well, that's the fun about these games is you never actually know what you're going to do. And that's mostly the player's fault.
Yeah, you know what? It's not my fault. It's their fault. It's all your
generally
fault.
The player's fault on why things go awry. Because the DM's always trying to, I've got 17 different plans. And then the player's like, well, we thought of number 18.
Right. We
don't
want to go that way.
All right.
We know this whole campaign's about like killing dragons, but we'd rather go into the Underdark and check out the little myconids and everything.
Yeah. Players are the best.
I am a DM that actually likes to just follow where the players go. And that's like the most fun for me. If it's me running a game on rails, I get so bored. But like
Same.
When I have players that like add to the story, like, oh, that NPC in this town, I know that character. Oh, okay, how do you know him? Like, I love giving player agency and letting people tie themselves to the NPCs or just what's going on a little better. And I don't like if you don't know about the world, throw something in there and I'll run with it. Like that's kind of how I am. Obviously, don't do game breaking stuff, but like have fun with it. It's your world too. Let's mold something out of this clay. So. With 2 years of experience, how often do you get to play?
Funny enough, more often than you would think. So originally, we just had a game that ran on Saturday nights. It was a weekly game. We did that for a year and a half, nice. Playing the same campaign. That was a lot of fun. We started off in a homebrewed world, and then eventually we went into Tomb of Annihilation. My very first character was a bugbear fighter, which is just classic. His name was Old Greg.
With reach?
Yeah, he had the reach. And the best part is I had no idea about any of the races, anything like that. I just saw bugbear. I was like, looks like Sasquatch. I want to play it. And the next game for Tomb of Annihilation, I did a Circle of the Moon Druid Triton, cool. Which had a lot of fun with that, revolving around the island of Chult. Things like that. Ended up, I don't know if you ever got to meet in the game Kawasha with his little...
the name doesn't sound familiar. So in Tomb of Annihilation, we are up to... So I've done it twice now. First time we ended at level 5 at Firefinger, like right after. Yep. This time we're a little bit further than that. We've gone like through the heart of Obtau, whatever the floating like thing. We're a little bit past there, like we're moving south.
Gotcha. So without any spoilers, so Kawasha was one of the guides you could choose from, and he had a veggie pygmy as a friend or a companion. Our guide died, or so we thought, the first time he was ascending up a tower with us, critically failed as gust of wind were coming and fell promptly 180 feet down. So with that, we thought he was dead. So his veggie pygmy was there, and I befriended it, right? Yeah. Because that's what I do in games.
You're like, it's small, it's cute, it's mine.
It's mine.
It's my squishy.
So throughout the game, the DM was actually cool. He actually evolved the veggie pygmy as we went. So as we gained some more levels, he turned into a woodwode. Which was pretty great. So, and then after that, after we had beaten the game, he went on to become a treant. So it was kind of like Pokemon, but in D&D. So yeah, he totally evolved. It was a lot of fun. And then from there, I actually started running my own homebrewed world. And we started off as a pirate campaign. Cool. That was a lot of fun. We did that close. It was almost a year. So it started to overlap in the games. And then nowadays, I play every Tuesday, streamed on Twitch. I now play an Unwilling Dragonborn, so an undead Dragonborn arcane archer named Atram Team Humatranu.
He's undead?
So fun story. So this is a DM created homebrew race.
Yep.
They're called the Unwilling. So at one point in time, I lived my life. Life was great. I died. And then there's this war that's going on in the world, the War of the Gods. And you could, before you died, sign a contract that people could resurrect you.
Okay.
And so there were people that did not sign those contracts. My character happened to have been one of those, and they resurrected me without my permission. So now I am a Unwilling. And it's a lot of fun. My character looks totally edgelord to the max, but completely opposite personality. Laid back, chill, cool, fun. So that's what I play now. I also play a Gwalari. I am a slut for homebrew races. But with that being said, the game I play on Saturdays with Dalavan Dice. He's our DM over there. I play a Gwalari, which you can think of. Originally, we started off as a changeling, and we're like, that's too OP. Two, it's just kind of boring. Like, you can do a lot with it, but there's a lot you can do to mess up the game. And as a player and as a DM, I totally recognize that, right? So we both created a new race called the Gwalari, which is a skeletal figure. I've got a thing for skeletons, apparently. And then on the outside, it's sentient ooze. So gemstone skeleton with sentient ooze on the outside. And then you can take certain feats that we made. So we made homebrewed feats and things like that. I
love homebrewed feats. I do.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for
in that way, you can quick change. So instead of taking a full long rest to change into a new form, you can do it in 10 minutes.
Oh, cool.
Or you can do, there's another feat in there for large form. So if I wanted to change into, I don't know, something big, like a thing.
Hill giant.
A hill giant. I could be a hill giant and assume, some of their stats and things like that.
So have you guys put this homebrew stuff into a PDF document that you sell or something? Because if not, you should, because it already sounds cool enough that I would drop a couple bucks for it.
So we are actually in the process of with both Rybinator and Dalavan. Both Ryans, funny enough, are going to be writing their books and doing lots of fun things. So we're actually we hired professional artists to come do renderings and illustrations for the book for Dalavan's side. We got lots of awesome illustrations so far. But yeah, he's writing a full on it's kind of like Volo's Guide, but for Dalavan.
That's so cool. I'm already interested. When that gets closer, I would love to have one or all of you guys on to talk about the stuff, because that
would be amazing. And I know Ryan would geek out for the chance to get to talk about it. Yeah, like Moonbeam said, Dalavan Homebrew is super fun to play in. It's one of my favorite worlds I think I've ever played in homebrew wise. Nice. And now I'm also finding that Rybinator's world is equally just as fun.
Yeah.
So I got blessed. I got two homebrew DMs, both named Ryan, that both let me play a skeletal player who has no memory of their past. It's very similar.
It sounds like you found your perfect groups, to be honest.
Yep. I really did. And the only group I'm still missing, we used to play on Mondays every week. But with the virus going on, we decided to take a break on it. But that's my group, the one I DM for homebrew. And so eventually, when 2 or 3 or 18 years goes by and this is all over, we can actually play again. I'll be super excited. I hope by the end of
next summer things are back to normal. I don't think
one can only hope.
I think we're looking at winter 2021 before
realistically, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's a real big bummer.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to Gen Con this year. That was on my to-do list. Not even as a dice seller or anything like that. I had a couple friends that they already had signed up for booths and things like that. So I was just going to go chill with them and hang out. And then, of course, that fell through. So hopefully maybe next year there'll be another Gen Con. And that time... we're actually thinking of combining a couple booths and having multiple dice makers at the same booth.
That's cool. Where are you located roughly?
I am in, no, you're fine. Charleston, South Carolina.
You said that in the Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I have family down in North Carolina, and I was like, and I actually have some friends who live in South Carolina now.
Yeah, no idea. It's hot as balls.
Yeah. So you said it's 88 there. So my game room has no AC or anything, and it's humid. I'm in Michigan, West Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
So we get humidity crazy sometimes. So it feels sometimes warmer. I'm my shirt's sticking to me a little. It's gross.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I was actually having this discussion the other day. It got up to, with the heat index of close to 110 the other day, and humidity was. Might as well have been 98%. It's just always like that here. And what part of Michigan?
So I'm just outside of Grand Rapids. I'm originally from southeast side near Ann Arbor.
Okay.
But right now we live in a town called Lowell of 3,000 people. It's like right next to Grand Rapids. So.
Awesome. That's actually where most of my family came from, was Michigan. I've got family up in Howell. My parents were from Detroit.
Howell is the KKK capital of Michigan. You know that, right?
I did not know that.
My father-in-law is actually from that area. Not calling your family racist.
Fun fact for the day.
I guess they had like the KKK leader of the Michigan chapter lived there, and there were some other people. Livonia was pretty bad for that too, but Livonia.
I will have a chat with my uncle up there and make sure he's not.
Right. So
fun facts.
I originally lived just outside of Ann Arbor, and that's like 30 minutes west of Detroit. So just take 94 down. Whereas Howell is like 15 minutes north of that. You just hop on 23 and you're right there.
Gotcha.
Only separated by a couple towns, but
I think the other one's St. Clair Shores.
Oh yeah, that's way over to the
east side. That's where the other half of the family lives.
Gotcha.
So I remember Michigan when I was a kid. I haven't been there in 15 years. So yeah.
Fun. Yeah, it's not bad.
Fun fact.
I did boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. So, I've been there at least for that.
Hey, fair enough.
No, I love Michigan. So there's things I love about it. There's things I hate about it. Obviously, I hate the humidity. I hate the winter, especially on the west side. We get a lot of lake effect snow. So on the southeast side, you might get 4 to 6 inches of snow, and that's nothing. That's easy to drive through in Michigan. The west side, you get the drift, so where the wind blows it, but you'll get like 18 inches of snow, but with the snow drifts and everything, you might have like feet of snow. And so like in the wintertime, you'll see people who have shoved, because of like after a couple of weeks, you shovel out your driveway so much, you might have the pile at the bottom of your yard at the driveway might be like 5 feet tall, so you can't even see as you're back.
That's crazy.
Out. Oh,
you give people in South Carolina an inch of snow, even flurries, they lose their shit.
Yeah.
Nobody can drive.
My in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, they go to Arizona in the winter, and they say that the roads are just extra slippery down there. Like if there's a half inch of snow, just because the roads, I don't know, they say because it doesn't rain, they say it's slippery. I don't buy that. Yeah,
it's not true. We just have terrible drivers. Like even in the rain, they're terrible.
That sucks.
Luckily, I can say I'm a good driver. I was insured to drive a $250,000 vehicle, aka an ambulance. So, just saying.
I got my chauffeur's license.
Hey, there you go.
But up
qualified.
Here, it's just
We're professionals. We're professionals.
All I had to do was pass a drug test and a written test of like 20 questions. And then I can get paid to drive.
Fair enough.
And you can actually drive, like in Michigan with a chauffeur's license, you can drive not necessarily like a full-fledged semi, but like some of the smaller ones, you can actually drive those still with a chauffeur's license. It's kind of funny. It's almost like you can do a lot more than you should be able to do with that.
Absolutely. I see the chat says Florida is the worst. I have to disagree. Probably. If I had to say the worst, it's Virginia. Virginia has the worst drivers. Sorry if anyone's in chat from Virginia, but you have the worst driver. I literally got ran off the road on the interstate once in Virginia. And the guy eyed us down. He's like, as we're driving by, we were just doing normal stuff.
Yeah. My one time driving through Virginia, I remember I was driving back from seeing family in North Carolina, and we're going through where you're like weaving around the mountains, and there's a semi that's I see a deer that's in the expressway because you're like up above the ground, so there's nowhere for the deer to go other than keep running in the road, and it's like doing this thing, and it wasn't close to hitting me, but then I look in my rearview mirror to see what's going to happen to this deer. And the semi that's like, I don't know, maybe 30 yards back, hit it. Blood. I've never seen this in my life. It literally just turned to just red mist everywhere. Like it looked like red fog all of a sudden around the semi. It was just completely obliterated.
There's so many emotions. It's like, I'm impressed. Right? I'm concerned.
Yep.
And I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's like it was probably one of the better ways to go because it was instant, And like rather than being hit and then like tumbling through the road or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Like if that's the way I'm gonna go out, I want it to be vaporized into a mist of red.
Right. It was like it was unreal. I've seen like I've hit a deer before with like my very first car, and I barely hit it. Like, but it wasn't pretty, but it got up and ran away. Luckily, hopefully it didn't die.
Hopefully.
But it probably did. But
keywords.
Yeah, like that memory will always be there of that incident in Virginia. So
absolutely.
Paul says just need a license and a heartbeat to drive the boo boo bus. Is that how it is here in Michigan? That's probably true.
I know for South Carolina you got to get insured for it, but it's in essence the same idea. South Carolina is weird with EMS, but not as weird as Florida. Florida is actually they're the only ones not on the national registry.
Oh.
At least I don't know if they still aren't. But when I was working EMS, Florida was the only state not on the national registry.
Sounds like Paul Ross has a similar experience when he used to live in Australia with kangaroos and trains.
Kangaroos and trains.
I'm assuming he means the blood fog mist thing.
That would make a good book title, in Kangaroos and Trains.
Yeah, why not? Technically, I think any job that you drive, you're supposed to claim it on insurance, like what you do. But I know most people don't. You know? Yeah. And they lie about how many miles they drive to work and all that stuff. Like, oh, I only drive 6 miles a day when it's like 30.
Yeah. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I could obviously talk to you all night because you are an awesome, interesting person. There's so many like RPG questions I could ask too. But I'm gonna wrap it up, and then I do want to have you on again, especially when your buddies and you guys get those worlds done. I think it would be fascinating to hear about that.
Yeah,
and maybe just
absolutely.
to get them on and talk about like some of their streamed games might be cool too. So yeah, we'll touch base on that. But where are the best ways to find you? Any ways to support you if they are interested in your dice?
So, fun fact, shameless plug right now. I actually have a Kickstarter going on right now. Wild Earth Dice over on Kickstarter. I'll type it into chat. So, Wild Earth Dice. Go check it out. It only has 48 hours to go. So, if you'd like to do a set there, it helps me out. Otherwise, realistically, I've got a Facebook, I've got Twitter. I don't use any of those. Instagram is my thing. Makes it easy. Yeah. That and my website. So yeah. Yeah,
Instagram, like I said, that's where I found you. I don't even know how I did. Like if I just liked another dice page and yours was recommended. I have no idea because I follow so many people on Instagram. But I keep seeing your dice and I'm like, oh, those look clean. And I'm like. And then I comment, especially if so I'm a sucker when I see dice that match my logo, like the teal and stuff. I'm always like, oh, I love this set. One day I want to have, I always say that on every single one of them. And they're all like, yeah, well, here's the link. And I'm like, oh, I don't have money for more dice. Like I've got a whole thing of dice.
I can tell it to you this way. So when I first started making dice, there were still dice makers, but there weren't nearly the amount of dice makers there are now on Instagram. And it's not something I'm upset about. I don't view them as competition. In fact, it makes me really excited because people are getting into it and they're creating their own awesome things. Yes. And that's why I'm really excited to be doing the Artist Spotlight over on Twitch, is so that I'm not going to lie, it will be kind of like these interviews you're doing there, except for I'm going to have them making stuff and doing stuff.
You're stealing my idea? What?
I'm stealing your idea.
Oh my gosh, you didn't even ask for permission.
But with that being said, I'm a little bit biased towards dice makers, as I am one myself. So it will be more dice makers on there as well. But I hope to get people on there like Jeremy from Black Magic Craft and
for sure, man,
things like that. And
I guarantee you, if you reach out to him, if he's got the availability, he'll do it. He loves stuff like that. So he's
a cool dude.
Yeah, for sure.
The best.
So it's funny. I actually stole this idea from Nerdarchy. He was doing this way before me. No, actually, when they quit doing their interviews like this, I had asked Dave, because Dave and I talk on the phone sometimes. We're really tight. which he'll be on next Friday, by the way. Is it next Friday? Maybe it's the Friday after that. He's going to be on in like the next 2 weeks. But when they quit doing their interviews, I said, hey, do you care if I start doing that now that you're not doing it? And he's like, no, go for it. He's like, but it's going to take a lot of time and you're not going to get a bunch of views and, you know, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, but I don't care about that. Like, I just like talking to people about RPGs.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I put off doing it for like 2 years. So, you know, started because of COVID, and then he started his backup shortly after me. So now he's stealing my idea again.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
So, anyways, yeah, go and support this man's Kickstarter. You know, I'm gonna have to go check that out. I for some reason did not realize that, so I'm gonna go check that out after this as well.
It's all right. It just got past 200,000 a couple days ago, so
Wow.
we were very excited. I had a blast designing all the dice.
$200,000?
Yeah,
dude, you can retire. No, I'm just kidding.
So what's fun about it, and before I let you go, so I was the dice designer for this Kickstarter. So I am not the creator of the Kickstarter.
Sure.
I just worked with them to give them the designs. Now, with that being said, yes, I get a cut of it. Yeah. But at that same token, I know where they're being made. It's in a small factory. It's a UK-owned factory. There's like 12 workers, and they're all going to be handmade via my specifications as well. So I went on video and actually trained them on how to actually make them, and I know they're actually getting paid well. So I'm super excited about that.
That's really cool. Yeah. All right, I'm checking that out. So, yeah, anyways, check that out. Before I go, I just want to quickly mention, if you guys are new to the channel, please hit subscribe. Would love to have you guys back. We do this about twice a week, sometimes more, depending on what's going on and who I can line up. Like I said, we've got Nerdarchy next week. I think it's next week. It might be 2 weeks from now. I'm just going to double check so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no problem. And while you did that, I just subscribed myself.
Thank you.
Do it.
Oh, Monday, Alex Gillette from Critical Hit Publishing. He did YouTube videos starting like 8 or 9 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He's awesome. He's a grognard. He loves old school games. He also does the Roll Up and Die podcast with a couple of the guys from Absolute Tabletop. Nice. Wednesday, Thursday, we mini paint. My wife is painting Caladrax. It's a big bone dragon by Reaper Bones.
Ooh.
So, yeah, she just started it this week, but it's so huge it doesn't look like she got far, but we've spent like 5 hours painting it so far.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's really cool. So then the following week, we're talking to Table Talk D&D, Discussions and Discourse. So they're a podcast format. They do like 5-hour discussions about things. They come across as very opinionated about certain topics. One of my regulars did a video about rules light versus rules heavy, and they're like crucifying him for 4 hours in this video.
Oh, no.
So I'm excited to talk to them. I think that's going to be awesome. But yeah, Dave will be the August 7th. So, and then obviously we got games like every single Saturday. Tomorrow we start Tyranny of Dragons. Next Friday, we're playing a game called Rad Wasteland. It's a post-apocalyptic Wild West game.
Awesome.
Using narrative dice like the Fantasy Flight Star Wars game. So they're more like pictures rather than numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So again, thank you for your time, Drew. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And if you ever need anything, just let me know and I'll happily promote it and share it around.
Vice versa.
Yeah, cool. And you guys at home, game on.